Hi, my name is Claire and I'm 42. I've been working as the head librarian at a quiet, small town public library for the last 15 years. It's not the most exciting job in the world, but it's steady. And stability is what I've learned to value most over the years. Life has a funny way of throwing curveballs, and after everything that happened in my past, I've learned to cherish the calm, the quiet moments. A stable job, a home, and routine are the things that keep me grounded. I married young. I was 23, fresh out of college, with the world at my feet and full of dreams. I thought I had it all figured out. But life, as it often does, had other plans. The marriage ended in a quiet, painful separation. It wasn't messy, but it wasn't easy either. After the divorce, I found solace in my job at the library. Books became my escape, my refuge, and this small, predictable life became my comfort. I made peace with it, telling myself that it was enough, that I didn't need anything more. I had my small circle of friends, mostly colleagues from the library, a few neighbors, and we would occasionally meet for coffee or a book club meeting. But for the most part, I kept to myself. I liked the quiet, the predictability. I liked that I could wake up each morning, go to work, and return home to the same cozy house I had lived in for years. My days were like clockwork pleasant, but uneventful. I was okay with that, or at least I convinced myself I was. But that Tuesday afternoon, everything changed. It was just another routine day. I was tidying up the children's section of the library, organizing the picture books in their neat rows when I heard the bell above the door ring. I glanced up, expecting to see one of our regular patrons, but instead, I froze. There, standing in the doorway, was a face I hadn't seen in over a decade, Ethan. He hadn't changed much. His hair was still the same tousled brown, and his eyes were just as green and piercing as I remembered. But there was a maturity in his face now, something I hadn't expected. His jaw was more defined, and he carried himself with a quiet confidence that wasn't there when he was younger. His presence seemed to fill the entire space in a way that was both familiar and startling. My heart skipped a beat as our eyes met, and for a moment, everything around me seemed to disappear. The noise of the library, the soft whispers of people browsing the shelves, it all faded into the background. All that mattered was the man standing before me. "Claire," he said, his voice low and warm, instantly pulling me back into the moment. "Ethan?" I asked, my voice catching in my throat. I wasn't sure if I was relieved, surprised, or something else. My pulse quickened and I couldn't seem to gather my thoughts. "What? What are you doing here?" "I was in town for a few days and thought I'd stop by." "I didn't know you were still working here," he said, his smile genuine but a little sheepish. I felt a strange mix of emotions wash over me, nostalgia, surprise, and a tinge of something that I wasn't ready to admit. Ethan and I had been close once too close. We were inseparable during our college years until life and distance had forced us to grow apart. We hadn't spoken in years. After graduation, we lost touch. He moved to the city for work, and I stayed in this small town where my roots had always been. But now, here he was, standing in front of me, looking like he belonged in my life as if no time had passed. I cleared my throat, trying to shake off the sudden wave of emotions that had flooded me. "I didn't expect to see you. I mean, it's been so long." "Yeah," he said, running a hand through his hair. "It's been a while. I guess life has a way of pulling us in different directions." I nodded, unsure of what to say next. We stood there in silence for a few moments, both of us awkwardly trying to figure out what came next. It was as though we were two strangers, trying to reconnect, but with the ghost of our past hanging in the air between us. "You look the same," he said, breaking the silence, his eyes softening as he looked at me. Still the same Claire I remember, I think. I wasn't sure how to respond to that. Was he implying that I hadn't changed? Or was he trying to tell me something else? Either way, the familiarity of his words and the warmth in his eyes stirred something deep within me. You look different, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, but in a good way. I mean, you've changed. It's been a while. Ethan chuckled, but there was a sadness in his laugh, something that lingered in his eyes. Yeah, I guess time has a way of doing that. He paused, then added, It's good to see you again, Claire. I swallowed, suddenly feeling exposed. There was something about seeing Ethan again so unexpectedly that had pulled at the thread of a part of my life I thought I had long since put away. He was the one who knew me before I retreated into this safe, comfortable life. He was the one who had seen me in ways no one else had. And now, here he was, and it was like that part of me, the part that had been dormant for so long, was waking up. Yeah, it's good to see you too, I said, forcing a smile, trying to keep my composure. We exchanged small talk for a few more minutes, but there was an awkwardness between us. It was as if neither of us knew how to navigate the space between us anymore. Finally, Ethan stepped forward, closing the gap between us just slightly. Would you like to grab coffee sometime? He asked, his voice low, his eyes meeting mine again with that same intensity. It's been so long, and I think we have some catching up to do. I hesitated for a moment. Part of me wanted to say yes. Another part of me wanted to retreat, back to the safe, predictable life I had built for myself. But something in his eyes, something in the way he was looking at me, made it impossible to say no. I'd like that, I said before I could think better of it. Ethan smiled again, that same warm, genuine smile that had always made my heart flutter back in the day. Great, I'll text you then. With that, he left, but not before giving me one last look, one that seemed to carry everything unspoken. Between us. I stood there for a long moment, staring after him, unsure of what had just happened. My thoughts raced. What was I doing? Was I really about to meet him again? After all this time, after everything that had happened between us? I glanced at the clock on the wall, my mind still spinning. The rest of the day passed in a blur, and when I finally got home that evening, I found myself staring at the phone, waiting for a message from Ethan. It didn't come that night. But even though the message didn't arrive, something had already shifted. Something deep within me had stirred, and I knew it wouldn't be easy to put back to sleep again. For the first time in years, I felt the stirrings of something I thought I'd lost forever, a desire to feel, to love, to live beyond the walls I had carefully built around myself. The next day, Ethan's message arrived, and with it, the promise of something more, something that had been waiting to happen, even if I wasn't ready for it. Part 2, rekindling the flame. It was strange, almost surreal, to find myself texting Ethan back, arranging to meet him at the cafe down the street from the library. I hadn't expected to feel so much from such a simple decision. A part of me felt excited, like a door had been opened to something new, something thrilling. Another part of me felt scared, hesitant to step out of the world I had built for myself over the years. But there was something about Ethan, about the way he made me feel seen, that I couldn't deny. The past, our shared memories, our laughter, our love still lingered in the corners of my mind, and despite everything, I wanted to explore it again. And so I asked ChatGPT. It felt like the universe had conspired to bring Ethan back into my life. After that first meeting in the library, I couldn't stop thinking about him. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his familiar green eyes and that warm smile that once made me feel invincible. I hadn't allowed myself to feel that way in so long. I had convinced myself that I didn't need that kind of passion, that kind of excitement in my life anymore. But now, every time I thought of him, That old feeling, those old memories began to resurface, pulling me in like an unseen force dot as the days passed. I tried to distract myself with my usual routine work, grocery shopping, quiet nights alone, with a book or a movie, but nothing felt the same. I couldn't concentrate at the library, couldn't focus on organizing the shelves or helping patrons with their books. My thoughts kept drifting back to Ethan and our brief conversation, the lingering intensity in his eyes. What had he meant when he said he wanted to catch up? What was he really asking? The text came the following morning. Coffee at Joe's Cafe, 3 p.m. Let's catch up properly this time. My heart skipped a beat as I stared at the message. I had told myself I would be careful, that I wouldn't fall back into old patterns. But here I was, holding my phone, feeling that familiar pull to reconnect, to see him again. And just like that, my plans for a quiet afternoon were abandoned. I couldn't help myself. I typed a quick reply. I'd love that. See you at 3. Arrived at Joe's Cafe a little early, trying to gather my thoughts. The small, rustic cafe was a favorite of mine, nestled in the heart of the town. Its wood-paneled walls, the aroma of freshly ground coffee beans, and the soft hum of background music made it the perfect place to unwind. It was the kind of place that felt familiar, like slipping into a well-worn sweater. I ordered my coffee at the counter and took a seat by the window, my hands nervously wrapping around the warm mug as I waited. My heart thudded in my chest, and a wave of uncertainty washed over me. I hadn't expected this longing to see Ethan again, to talk to him, to find out what had really changed between us. The clock ticked closer to 3 p.m., and I tried to calm my racing thoughts. What was I even hoping for? Was I hoping that he still felt something for me? Was I looking for a rekindled romance? Or was I just wanting closure, wanting to know what went wrong between us all those years ago? Just then, the door to the cafe opened and in walked Ethan. For a moment, I was frozen, unsure of what to do. He looked the same, but different, more mature, more self-assured. His dark hair was a little longer than I remembered, and the casual, stylish jacket he wore made him look even more handsome than I recalled. His eyes scanned the room, and when they landed on me, his face broke into that same smile. That smile that had once made my heart race in ways I had never expected. "Claire," he said, walking toward me with that confident, easy gait, "it's good to see you." My breath caught in my throat. "It's good to see you too," I replied, trying to sound casual. Though my voice wavered slightly, Ethan sat down across from me, his gaze never leaving mine. He looked just as familiar as I remembered, but now there was a new layer to him, a depth that hadn't been there before. I couldn't help but wonder what had happened in the years we'd been apart. What was he thinking now? He leaned forward slightly, his eyes serious. "I've been thinking about you, Claire." "About this?" I felt my heart tighten at his words. "Us?" I asked, unsure of what he meant. "There isn't really an us anymore, is there?" Ethan's expression softened, and for the first time, I noticed the weight in his eyes. "I didn't mean it that way," he said, his voice gentle. "But I've been thinking about the past, about what happened between us, and I guess I just wanted to know if you ever think about it, about us." His words hung in the air, heavy with the history between us. I didn't know how to respond. It had been so long since I had thought about us, about what we had been. And yet now, sitting here with him, it felt as though no time had passed. At all. "I think about it," I said quietly, finally finding my voice. "I think about us all the time. I just didn't know if I was allowed to anymore." Ethan reached across the table and took my hand, the warmth of his touch sending a shiver down my spine. "Why wouldn't you be allowed to? There's no rule that says we can't revisit the past, or maybe even move forward from it." My breath caught again, and I looked at him, searching his face for some kind of sign. Was he saying what I thought he was saying? Was he asking me to let go of the years that had passed and try again? To rediscover what we had? I've missed you, Ethan continued, his voice low. And I know it's complicated, Claire, but I can't shake the feeling that we're meant to have another chance. I know I've changed, and I know you have too. But there's something between us, something real. I pulled my hand back slowly, my mind racing. Could I really do this? Could I really open myself up to the possibility of loving again? Loving him again? I don't know if I'm ready for this, I said, my voice shaky. I've built a life here, Ethan. A life that's safe, predictable. I'm not sure I can just shake it all up. Ethan leaned back, giving me space, his eyes soft with understanding. I get it, Claire. I really do. But sometimes we have to take a leap, don't we? Sometimes we have to step out of our comfort zone to find something real, something worth fighting for. His words resonated with me more than I wanted to. Admit, it had been so long since I had felt this kind of pull, this kind of desire to live, to feel something more than the quiet, comfortable routine I had created. But I was scared. I was scared of what would happen if I allowed myself to fall for him again. Was I strong enough to handle it? Was he? Ethan seemed to read my mind. We don't have to rush into anything, Claire, he said gently. I'm not asking for all the answers right now. I just want the chance to see where this could go, to see where we could go. I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time in a long while, I felt something stirring inside me, a flicker of hope, of longing, of passion I had buried so deep. Maybe it was time to rediscover that part of myself. Maybe it was time to stop hiding behind the walls I had built and allow myself to experience something real again. I don't know where this will go, Ethan, I said, my voice steady now, but I'm going to find out. With you. His smile returned, brighter this time, and he reached across the table to take my hand again. I'm glad. Because I've been waiting for you, Claire, for a long time. And just like that, the walls I had built around my heart began to crumble. The past was still there, but now it was just a part of our story, not the whole thing. We were ready to write the next chapter together. As the days turned into weeks, the bond between Ethan and I grew in ways I hadn't anticipated. It wasn't the loud, overwhelming kind of passion that I had once imagined in the movies. Instead, it was quiet, steady, and comforting, like the slow and inevitable unfolding of a flower, its petals opening just enough to reveal its beauty. I found myself waking up every day with a sense of anticipation, of excitement, but also with a peaceful contentment that I hadn't felt in years. Ethan was patient with me, never rushing things, always giving me space to breathe, to think, to reflect. It was as if he understood that for me, this was a delicate process, a process of rediscovery, of coming back to life after years of living in the shadows of routine and caution. He didn't expect me to jump in with both feet. Instead, he invited me to take it one step at a time, and every step we took together felt like a small, beautiful victory. Our coffee dates turned into dinners, and our dinners turned into late night walks along the quiet streets of our town. Sometimes we would sit in the park, just talking about everything and nothing, with no agenda, no expectations. There was something incredibly soothing about being in his presence, about hearing his voice and seeing that familiar warmth in his eyes. It was the kind of comfort I hadn't known I missed, true, genuine connection that went beyond the surface. One evening, after a particularly long day at the library, Ethan suggested we go for a walk. It was a cool autumn night, the crisp air carrying the scent of fallen leaves and earth. The streets were bathed in golden streetlights, casting long shadows as we walked side by side, our hands brushing occasionally. I've been thinking about something, Ethan said softly, breaking the silence. about us. I turned to him, my heart skipping a beat. His tone was serious, but there was something gentle in his voice that made me feel safe. What about us? He paused, looking ahead as if gathering his thoughts. When we first met up again, I wasn't sure what would happen. I wasn't sure if you'd even want to see me again, let alone have this kind of connection. But now, after spending time with you, I'm starting to realize something. My heart pounded in my chest. What's that? Ethan stopped walking, turning to face me, his eyes locking with mine. I've never really stopped loving you, Claire. And I think now I know that I want to be with you. Not just as some old flame, but as someone who's ready to build something real. Something lasting. The world seemed to stand still as his words sank in. I wasn't sure if I was ready to hear them. I wasn't sure if I was ready to open my heart again, to take the leap into something unknown. But when I looked into Ethan's eyes, I saw something that made my chest tighten with emotion, a depth, a sincerity, a longing. For a long moment, I couldn't speak. I felt my heart race, my breath hitching in my throat. Was I ready to let go of the past, to allow myself to fall in love again? Was I ready to take this risk? My thoughts were a blur, and yet I knew there was only one answer that felt true. I don't know what the future holds. I finally whispered, my voice trembling with emotion, but I know that right now, with you, I feel alive again. And maybe that's all that matters. Ethan smiled, his face softening as he took my hand in his. I don't need anything else but you, Claire. I'm not asking for promises. I just want the chance to explore this with you, to see where it goes. In that moment, everything inside me seemed to fall into place. The fear, the hesitation, all of it melted away, replaced by a deep sense of peace. I realized that I wasn't just falling in love with Ethan again. I was falling in love with myself, with the idea that I could be brave enough to take this step, to allow myself to be vulnerable again. We continued walking, our hands now intertwined, the silence between us comfortable. The cool night air seemed to carry away the last remnants of doubt and fear. The stars above twinkled like little reminders that even in the darkest moments, there was beauty and light waiting to be discovered. The weeks that followed were nothing short of magical. Every moment with Ethan felt like a piece of a puzzle clicking into place. We spent time rediscovering each other, the little things we loved, the dreams we had, the laughter that had once flowed so easily between us. But we also spent time discovering new parts of each other. It was as though we were writing a new chapter in our story, one where the past was important but not defining. We were creating something entirely new, something that belonged only to us. We started planning weekend trips to nearby towns, visiting parks, walking along quiet trails, and enjoying the simplicity of being together. We explored new restaurants, laughed over coffee dates, and shared moments of quiet intimacy that spoke more than words could ever say. And then, one evening, as we were sitting in a cozy little cafe on the outskirts of town, Ethan reached across the table and took my hand, his eyes serious once again. I had learned to read the depth of his emotions, to understand when he was about to say something important. I've been thinking, he began, his voice steady, about us, about the future. I raised an eyebrow, intrigued. What about it? He took a deep breath, his fingers gently squeezing mine. I don't want to rush anything. I don't want to pressure you. But I've never been more certain of anything in my life. I want to be with you, Claire. Not just for a few months, but for the long haul. I want us to build something real, something that lasts, if you're willing to take that chance with me. Tears welled up in my eyes as I listened to him, the sincerity in his voice touching something deep within me. I had spent so long closed off, afraid to love again, afraid to make myself vulnerable. But now, with Ethan, everything felt different. It felt right. I've always been afraid of what might happen, I said quietly, my voice trembling. Afraid of losing myself, of getting hurt again. Ethan's gaze softened and he leaned closer. I won't hurt you, Claire. I promise. I'm not asking for anything more than the chance to see where this goes, to be with you. I didn't need more words. His presence, his sincerity were enough. I knew what I wanted, and for the first time in years, I was ready to take the leap. Yes, I whispered, my voice full of emotion. Yes, Ethan, I want that too. I want to be with you. His face lit up with a smile so radiant it took my breath away. Without another word, he leaned across the table and our lips met in a kiss that was soft, tender, but full of the promise of everything that lay ahead. In that kiss, I felt the weight of the years fall away. I felt the past and the future collide in that one simple moment, and for the first time in a long time, I allowed myself to believe in the possibility of something real, something lasting. We didn't need to know everything right away. We didn't need to have all the answers. All we needed was each other and the willingness to step forward. Together into the unknown. As the weeks turned into months, our relationship continued to grow. We shared more moments, built more memories, and slowly but surely I rediscovered the passion I had once thought was lost forever. I realized that love wasn't something that could be rushed or forced. It was something that needed time, trust, and patience to flourish. And as I looked into Ethan's eyes, I knew one thing. For sure, falling in love with him again had been the best decision I'd ever made.